Can you hear me now?
I can, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. The Town of Los Gatos Planning Commission meeting of Wednesday, July 28, 2021 is now called to order. This meeting is being conducted using teleconferencing and electronic means consistent with the State of California Executive Order N29-20 dated March 17, 2020 regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. The live stream of the meeting may be viewed on Comcast Channel 15 and/or online as noted on the agenda. In accordance with the order, the public may only view the meeting on television or online and not in the council chambers. We are conducting tonight's meeting in a virtual setting using Zoom. All planning commissioners and staff are participating from remote locations, and all voting will be done by roll call vote. Director Paulson, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Janoff. Commissioner Suzuki? Commissioner Tabana?
Here.
Commissioner Barnett?
Yes, present.
Vice Chair Birch?
Here.
Chair Janoff?
Here.
And let the record reflect that Commissioner Thomas and Commissioner Hanson are not with us this evening.
All right, thank you. As the Planning Commission conducts this meeting on behalf of the Town Council and residents of Los Gatos, we encourage active participation, which is essential for democracy and critical to the work of the Planning Commission. Your participation can occur through written comments about agenda items submitted prior to staff prior to a meeting, and those comments are always welcome and helpful. During our meeting, there are two opportunities for members of the public to participate. During verbal communications, an individual may speak on any topic not on the agenda. And during the hearing of a specific agenda item, any member of the public may speak about that item which is on the agenda. If you wish to address the commission tonight during verbal communications or during the consideration of an agenda item, you must join the Zoom webinar via the link and password provided on page 2 of the staff report. When I announce the item for which you wish to speak, please click the raise hand feature in Zoom. And if you're participating by phone only, press *9 on your telephone keypad. When called to speak, please state your name and address for the record. Alternatively, you may choose to speak anonymously. It is requested that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. We've now come to the verbal communications portion of our meeting. At this time, members of the public are invited to address the commission on any issue not on the agenda. Director Paulson, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak at this time?
Thank you, Chair Janoff. I don't see any hands raised for items that are not on the agenda. Just give it a couple of seconds here. Seeing none, Chair.
All right, thank you for that. The next item on our agenda is the consent calendar. We did have 2 items on our calendar, but the second item, appeal of a DRC decision regarding property located at 15897 Camino del Cerro, APN 523-24044, has been withdrawn. Therefore, the consent item to be acted upon tonight with a single motion is approval of draft minutes of the July 28, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. Does any commission member or member of the public wish to pull this item from the consent calendar? I don't see any. May I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar? Commissioner Barnett.
Yes, I move to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Commissioner Tabana.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And do you have any other comments or changes before I call the question? I don't see any hands raised. So we'll now take a roll call vote. Commissioner Tabana.
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett.
Yes,
Commissioner Suzuki.
Yes.
Vice Chair Birch.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. The motion passes. We now move on to the public hearing, agenda item number 3, which is to consider approval for construction of a new single-family residence and site improvements requiring grading permit on vacant property zoned HR-5 located on Wood Road, APN 510-47045, architecture and site application S21003. Property owners Omari and Kavita Booknight, applicant Gary Colsett, architect, project planner Sean Mullen. It should be noted that this item was continued from our July 28, 2021 meeting. Do we have any disclosures tonight? I don't see any hands raised. And so we'll move on. Mr. Mullen, I understand you'll be giving a staff report tonight.
Yes, thank you.
On July 28th, the Planning Commission considered the application and continued the matter with direction for the applicant to evaluate options to reduce the height of the residence and therefore visibility from the viewing areas located at highways 9 and 17, and to clarify whether a right-of-way exists on the subject property. In response to the Planning Commission's direction, the applicant has reduced the overall height of the residence and incorporated additional trees to further screen the residence. The applicant has revised the upper floor of the residence by reducing the ceiling heights by 9 inches and changing the roof form of the upper portion of the residence from hipped to flat. As a result, the overall low to high height of the residence has been reduced by 2 feet. Additionally, the revised project introduces 8 redwood trees to be planted east of the residence within a landscape easement on the property, the neighboring property. The applicant selected the redwood trees based on their height, foliage density, growth rate, native species, and cost. The applicant estimates that the new trees would be at least 20 feet tall at the time of planting and 24.5 feet tall within 2 years of planting. The goal of the project revisions is to reduce the visibility of the residence, and the previous design, which was calculated at 34.9% visible. The proposed changes to the residence itself would reduce visibility to 32%, and the new screening trees are estimated to reduce visibility to 27% at the time of planting and 24.2% after 2 years of growth. An updated visibility analysis is included with Exhibit 15 of your staff report. The project continues to require exceptions for the height of the residence, grading depths, driveway slope, retaining wall heights, and water tanks located in a required setback. The applicant has included a letter of justification detailing the need and circumstances applicable to each of these requested exceptions. Lastly, during the previous hearing, the Planning Commission requested clarification on whether a right-of-way exists on the subject property as claimed by the neighboring property owner. As detailed in your staff report, it is the conclusion of the town attorney that all parties agree that there is no evidence of a public right-of-way on the subject property. The neighboring property's owner's attorney contends that there is a private easement on the subject property benefiting their client. A claim of private easement is a civil matter in which the town is not involved. Based on the analysis provided in the staff report, staff recommends approval of the architecture and site application, subject to the recommended conditions of approval included in Exhibit 3. An addendum and desk item to your staff report have been distributed ahead of tonight's meeting, including a summary of the research into the claim of right-of-way and easement by the applicant's civil engineer and additional public comment. This concludes staff's presentation, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mullen. Do any commissioners have questions for Mr. Mullen or other members of staff at this time? All right, I don't see any hands raised. So we will now open the public hearing and give the applicant up to 5 minutes to address the commission.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to allow Mr. Bachnight to speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paulson, and thank you to the commission. If staff could pull up the presentation, we just had a few items that we wanted to walk the commission through. So as mentioned, we're revisiting this project. We're very thankful for the feedback that came from the commission, which helped to direct us in terms of revising our proposal. If you could move to the next slide, please. So this is an aerial view of our parcel, which we're proposing as 145 Wood Road. As you can see, as marked by the dotted blue line, the primary parcel makes up about 0.7 acres. This parcel was developed through a lot line adjustment back in June 2016, which was approved by the town. This was done in order to make the land, put the land in a better position for utilization, and separated 2 APNs. Subsequently, in September of 2017, there was an exclusive use easement that was designed and put into action for another ½ an acre at an adjacent portion of the property. As you can see towards the bottom of the photo, this is what the Wood Road looks like as it moves east to west, uphill and downhill. That Wood Road bifurcates the 2 primary parcels there, which would separate 145 Wood Road from 138 Wood Road. One thing that is of note is that this is the primary road and this is the road which contains both the right-of-way and the easement for access of homes up and down the road. That includes both parcels 006 and 007. If you could move to the next slide, please. So during our last discussion and our proposal, as noted by staff, we attempted to meet the guidelines both in terms of visibility and height. However, our home was deemed to be visible from one of the viewing platforms. In fact, it was visible at a proportion of 34.9%, which was over the 24.5% standard in the guidelines. As it was deemed a visible home, the maximum height, low to high height, was missed by approximately 6 feet of height. It was that miss that gave the commission the opportunity to provide feedback on ways that we might be able to make adjustments to our proposal in order to reduce visibility. There were 2 items that were mentioned during that conversation. First was a recommendation of looking at height, and secondly was a recommendation to look at screening trees. We looked at both as part of this revised proposal. If you could move to the next. So this is our proposed design changes. This is both from the east elevation as well as from the west elevation. I think you'll find the changes a little bit easier to see in the graphic on the bottom, which is the west elevation. This shows the adjustments that staff highlighted in terms of reducing the height, as well as moving to a flat roof design. This modified roof design reduces the height by 3 feet in the area that is the most visible, and it reduces by 2 feet in the least visible sections. Next slide, please. In addition to that, staff mentioned exploring the possibility of adding additional screening trees. We spent extensive effort to look at where we could add the screening trees to provide lower visibility. We evaluated what sorts of trees would make sense to place here based on being indigenous, as well as evergreen, as well as providing appropriate screening. And what we landed on was the proposal to place indigenous redwoods due to their dense structure and sufficient height. We then produced several simulations that resulted in what staff noted in terms of visibility. And what we found is that we would be able to reduce our visibility by a combination of the height reductions, as well as the addition of screening trees from 34.9% down to 24.2%. You can see the comparisons in the table below, which again restate the maximum heights and low to height based off of whether a home is considered to be visible or not visible. If these proposals are considered to be acceptable, we would be able to meet the visibility standard, and along with the reduction of height, be in a situation where we meet the low to high ratio as well as the overall maximum height ratio. So overall, we're very pleased to have developed this proposal to reduce visibility based on the Planning Commission's feedback and guidance. And we very much thank you for that feedback and guidance. And we thank you for the time, and we're happy to address any questions that you might have for us.
All right, thank you very much for that presentation. Do any commissioners have questions for the applicant at this time? Commissioner Barnett. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. I was wondering if you would agree to a condition for future maintenance of the redwood trees that are proposed to be planting for screening. In other words, beyond planting of the trees, that there would be future maintenance.
Absolutely. We would consider that to be one of the qualifications of the approval here. Thanks for the question. I'd be happy to support that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant at this time? All right, I don't see any other hands raised, so we will move on to public comments. Members of the public may choose to, state your name and or address or speak anonymously, but please understand this meeting is being recorded for the public record. And I would ask again that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any members of the public who would like to speak at this time?
We do. First will be Mr. Lonsdale.
Good evening, Commission, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Simon Lonsdale. I'm a longtime resident, 16 years of Los Gatos, and homeowner living on Templeton Lane, just off Coldwell. I've known the Booknight family for over a year now, and very much appreciate them being a part of the Los Gatos community. I've walked along Bella Vista, and there is no visibility from Bella Vista, just from the one spot that you note. And I've been up to the home site that they're developing or planning to develop, and I really feel they've tried to fit into the character of the town with their approach. and very much appreciate them as a family moving into a town and planning to be in here for the long term. So I just want to say, hopefully this is approved by the committee, and very much appreciate everyone's time and effort. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lonsdale, for your comments. Director Paulson, do we have any other members of the public wishing to speak? Mr. Paulson, you're on mute.
Thank you for that. Next will be Mr. Wright.
Hi, my name is Adam Wright. Thank you for the chance to address you tonight. I live on Vista Del Mar. I'm a Los Gatos resident here to speak in support of the Book Knights application. We are, full disclosure, longtime friends of the Book Knights, and we're thrilled they've chosen to be a part of the Los Gatos community. My wife and I moved to Los Gatos several years ago for the same reasons that brought the Book Knights. My wife and I have 3 young boys, and we searched hard for a community with great public schools. After moving around earlier in our careers, we found in Los Gatos a place we finally call home. My wife and I have known Kavita and Amari for almost 25 years, since our days in undergrad at Michigan State University. They have 2 wonderful boys who were classmates of our oldest son at Van Meter last year and at Fisher this year. They're also a multi-generational family, with Kavita's father living with them and numerous family members coming to visit. It's something else we have in common, since we all have family in Michigan and we somehow get more visitors in the winter months. I know that Amari and Kavita have been diligent and sincere in their effort to live up to the spirit of the guidelines. They love Los Gatos for the same reasons so many of us do, and they would be a tremendous addition to our community. For those reasons, I wholeheartedly support their application.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Wright. Any questions for the speaker? All right. Do we have any other members of the public who wish to speak?
We do. Next will be Mr. Draw.
Hello, can the commission hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Justin Dre, and I live at 138 Wood Road, and I'm the neighbor who granted the exclusive use easement that Amari was talking about earlier. I'm pretty much the only person in the town that this project could directly affect. I've been looking at a vacant parcel lot that people have been driving up to and breaking bottles and littering, and in one case, some high schoolers crashed their car. And I am thrilled at the prospect of some development by the Book Knights coming across the street. I have no objections, and I'm more than pleased to see the screening tree plan. Amari came by my house the other day and walked me through it from my property to ensure that my view wouldn't be affected, and that I had input on that. And that's how it's been since the beginning. We've worked collaboratively since they purchased this parcel when I first met them, and they've become friends in the meantime. Watching their plans evolve has been a pleasure. We like the design. It conforms well to the neighborhood. I like the tiered approach that follows the slope of the hillside, and I'm in full support. I also welcome them to the town and hope that the commission won't delay their ability to get going any longer. Not that they've delayed it, but thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Dre. Any questions for the speaker? All right. Do we have any other speakers or members of the public wishing to speak?
We do. The next speaker will be Jean. Ms. Eberhamoon, or Mr. Eberhamoon, you need to unmute yourself so you can talk. You're unmuted. Go ahead and speak.
Right, thank you, commissioners, of hearing me on this right away. For last 37 years and before we purchased the property, we made sure everything is online for right away and access, and through the chain of commands and title research, this access and right away always been there. That's the only way you could go to that 1 acre lot. Previously, when there was a house on it that burned down. So with this lot line adjustment, I do not know how it could be diminished. So what I'm saying, we have done a very detailed research on it, and we have our engineer online also, Mr. Frank Lewis, that has been involved with us and researching this, and he can address it further. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your comments. Do any commissioners have questions for the speaker? I do have one, and that is, Mr. Ibrahimi, did you take note of the staff report's comment that because this is a subject of an easement, that the town does not have purview to make decisions or weigh in on your easement questions? And you're on mute again.
David, you're on mute again. Let me just see if I can't do it from my end.
Okay, go ahead. We have no objection with the approval of this project as long as does not interfere with our access. We can later on clarify for Mr. Omori that this has been our access. That's the only access to get to that parcel. Also, due to all these fires that exist in California, having two access to the parcel of that part of the hills is much more useful for us and all the neighbors.
Let me pause you for a moment there. My question was whether you understand that your easement question is not a matter that the Planning Commission can discuss or take action on. It's a civil legal matter, and it's outside of the Planning Commission's purview. I just wanted to understand whether you understood that to be the case from the staff report before we move on.
I understand that as long as there's no construction, anything else goes on. That
All right.
parts of
All
the
right.
land that is.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Any other questions for the speaker? Yeah. All right. Do we have another speaker?
We do. Next speaker is JJ Lin.
Hello. Yeah, this is JJ, and I'm living in the 150 Wood Road, and actually, the Army has been participated in some road construction, and he talked to us many times. And can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, and so we be working kind of neighborhood working together, just try to beautify the areas. And I understand that he's also going to do something nearby the Wood Road, just try to make the entrance of the Wood Road it's more beautiful. So, and so I'm fully support his proposal, and hopefully his property can be done soon.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Lin. Do any commissioners have questions for the speaker? I don't see any hands raised. Director Paulson, do we have any other speakers tonight?
I don't see any other hands raised. Just give it a second before we move back to the applicant. Next, we actually have one now, which is Dave Pierce.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. Although not a Los Gatos town resident, my wife and sons have been residents in Aldercroft Heights, right up the hill, for 25 years. Our younger son attended all 4 years at Los Gatos High. My wife is currently president of the Los Gatos History Club, so we have a significant stake in the town, in the community. I've known Amari and Kavita since probably 2008. Kavita and I were colleagues at a medical device company for several years. In fact, I think during that time of employment, Kavita had her son. So we got to know each other very well, stayed in touch when they were relocated to Europe, and are thrilled to have them back in the area. For what others have said, they're going to be outstanding members of the community. And it certainly appears they've done their due diligence in terms of home design. So thank you very much.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Pierce. Any questions for the speaker? All right, I don't see any hands raised. Do we have any other speakers tonight, Dr. Paulson, from the public?
I don't see any other hands raised. Again, we'll just give it a couple seconds. Seeing none, Chair, you can go back to the applicant.
All right, thank you. So at this time, the applicant may return and you have up to 3 minutes to add any further comments. Do you wish to speak tonight? Again.
Yes, just to close out briefly, thank you so much for the opportunity to present the revised proposal. We really appreciate the directive. I just wanted to make a quick comment about the question around the right-of-way and the easement. We certainly respect Mr. Ibrahimi's right to access his parcels. We've taken the opportunity to first write him a letter back in April, and then we've subsequently met with him 2 times in person. As I highlighted in the first portion of the presentation, there's clearly an access road to get up to the parcels. In fact, we walked to those parcels together. In 2019, in fact, there was a submission to this very commission regarding to those 2 parcels, and the designs that were submitted were using that road as an access way, and there was no mention of this other easement. So we're happy to address this privately and work it out as such. And obviously our goal is that he be able to access his parcels just like everyone else along that road. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you for that addition. Do any commissioners have questions for the applicant at this time? I don't see any hands raised. So I will now close the public hearing.
Chair, I see
Sorry, Commissioner Suzuki.
Mr. Suzuki.
Just a quick question about the screening trees. One is, I see that they're indigenous redwoods. I'm not somebody who's familiar with all the subfamily of redwoods. I was just wondering what the specific type of redwood is going to be planted. And also, do we have screening percentages past 2 years, just as a point of curiosity? And how tall do these trees grow? And if they grow past a certain height that is not acceptable, at what point would we try to control the height if possible? Thank you.
So that's a question for the applicant, Mr. Buchnight, or if you've got your landscape architect or other.
I'm going to allow Mr. Fox to speak, Chair.
Can you hear me, Commission?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Hi, this is David Fox, landscape architect on the project. Commissioner Suzuki, the redwood trees are Sequoia sempervirens, which are the native coast redwoods that grow all above Los Gatos. They're not hard to see. You can look up in the mountains and see them. We might put in one of the varieties like the Aptos. They're a little more reliable in this area. The trees live to be 300 plus years old, and they will eventually get 300 feet tall, but none of us will be around to see that. So in the near term, you can expect that they will get in the 10-year range. In the 10-year time frame, they'll probably be in the 35-foot range, perhaps, from if we plant them at 20 to 22 feet when they go in.
And I also see Mr. Bucknight's hand raised. So if you have anything further on that, Mr. Bucknight?
Just to mention, Commissioner Suzuki asked about maintenance, and we assume that there will need to be a maintenance plan put in place as with all of the trees on the parcel. One of the things that we're looking forward to, as mentioned by Mr. Dre, is that the parcel is sat kind of untouched for a long period of time, and a number of the trees are currently suffering. So we're looking forward to being able to maintain all the trees on the property.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that response. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, I don't see hands raised. So at this time, I'm checking again, I will close the public hearing on this item and ask if the commissioners have questions for the staff, wish to comment on the application, or introduce a motion for consideration. Commissioner Barnett.
I had a question for Mr. Mullen, and we had a little conversation offline about the purpose of the town's policy that the visibility analysis not include proposed trees or landscaping. And I wonder if I could impose on him to explain the purpose to that rule.
Thank you for the question. So typically, visibility studies are calculated using only the existing vegetation. While the hillside development standards and guidelines don't explicitly say those words, they do require that during the calculation and the investigation for the visibility analysis, that a health assessment of existing trees be performed, and that only existing trees with a health rating of 50 or above be considered as part of the visibility analysis. So kind of connecting the dots there, we would only look at existing trees for a visibility analysis. I started this answer with the word typically because in certain circumstances, like we're looking at tonight, the commission can make a recommendation or provide direction for an applicant to look at introducing additional trees to impact the visibility of the structure. And that's why they've been considered tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions or comments by commissioners? Vice Chair Birch and then Commissioner Devana.
So I just want to make sure that what I'm looking at, I'm clear on sheet VS2. There's 3 diagrams in the middle demonstrating visibility. Are the percentages that are shown on that, are we including the new vegetation in those percentages?
So the let's see here. So the rendering to the right, so I'll work right to left on that diagram, does not include the new 8 redwood trees. So you'll see that that just includes the roof change of the upper story, and the visibility is reduced to 32% from 34.9. The middle image introduces the trees with a height estimate of, I believe, 22.5 feet at planting. And that does consider the impact of those trees and reduces the visibility to 27%. And then the image on the far left is 2 years after planting with an anticipated growth of 2 feet, thus reducing the visibility by an estimate to 24.2%.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Devana.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I was going to start the conversation off and just say I support this project tonight. I really appreciate the level of the effort involved in, revising the plans and trying to work within their existing scope to minimize the visibility. We have a 2-foot reduction. They're going to plant 8 redwood trees. And based on what we just saw here, after 2 years, we're looking at around 24.2% visibility. So I'll support the project this evening.
All right, thank you for those comments. Any other comments? Motion? Commissioner Barnett?
I'm ready to present a motion
Please do.
in favor of the application. 1 second here. I move to approve construction of a new single-family residence and site improvements and the issuance of a related grading permit for the vacant property located on Wood Road, APN 510-47-045, architecture and site application S-21-003. Property owners are Omari and Kavita Booknight. I find that the right-of-way issue described in the staff report is resolved based on the undisputed fact that the right-of-way was not dedicated or accepted by the town, and so is a civil matter to be addressed by the respective property owners as indicated by the town attorney. I can also make the findings specified on page 16 of the staff report of August 20th. First, that the proposed project is categorically exempt pursuant to the adopted guidelines for the implementation of the California Environmental Quality Act, section 15303, new construction. 2, that the project complies with the objective standards of Chapter 29 of the Town Code. 3, that due to the constraints of the site, exceptions to the building height, grading depths, driveway slope, retaining heights, and the location of the water tanks and the required setbacks are appropriate. And further, that the project is otherwise in compliance with the applicable sections of the hillside development standards and guidelines. 4th, that the project is consistent with the hillside specific plan. 5, that I take into consideration the considerations as required by section 292005 of the town code for granting of an approval of an architectural and site application. And finally, the approval of the architectural and site application S-21-003 is based on the revised development plans attached as Exhibit 5 to the staff report dated August 20, 2021, and the conditions of approval attached as Exhibit 3 to the staff report dated July 28, 2021, with the sole addition that the redwood screening trees identified in the application be subsequently maintained.
Thank you for that comprehensive motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Tabana,
I second it.
any comments, discussion on the motion? I don't see any. Therefore, I'll call the question. Commissioner Tabana,
Yes.
Commissioner Suzuki,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Birch,
No.
and the chair votes yes as well, and so the motion passes. And I would like to add that I am very grateful on behalf of the commission that the applicant's architect and landscape designer weighed in and took into consideration what the planning commission was asking for. You've met the spirit and intent of the guidelines that have been provided, and we are very pleased at that motion. So that concludes the matter, and we'll move on.
Chair Janoff, we just need to cite the appeal rights real quick.
Yes, please do. Thank you.
So anyone who's not satisfied with the decision of the planning commission can appeal that decision to the town council. There is a fee for filing the appeal. The appeal must be filed within 10 days, and the appeal form is available online on the town's website.
All right, thank you for that. I will now move on to other business, and we will start with the report from the Director of Community Development, Director Paulson.
Thank you, Chair Janoff. So I've got a few things. Just want to keep plugging away that we have our draft 2040 general plan out for circulation. We also have the environmental impact report for that general plan in circulation and up for public comment. The Planning Commission will actually be holding a public hearing to receive public testimony on September 8th. And that's simply to provide verbal comments. Folks can also provide written comments up until September 13th at 5 o'clock. The town council is also getting ready, the town is getting ready to update its housing element, which is one of the elements of the general plan, but it's on a different cycle. The town is recruiting for up to 4 additional public members to join the general plan committee to form the housing element advisory board, which will conduct that review and ultimately recommend a draft housing element to the planning commission and town council. The town council and planning commission will be holding a study session on September 20th at 4 p.m. to discuss the draft general plan. And lastly on my list, town hall will be reopening for members of the public to enter, and that's the clerk's department, Parks and Public Works, as well as the community development department, for members of the public to finally come back into the offices in obviously a safe and spaced manner. So that's what we're looking forward to in next week.
Thank you for that. And as a follow-on to opening the public offices, any discussion about resuming in-person meetings in the council chambers?
So town council started that on August 17th, but the other commissions and committees are going to be probably a little bit down the road. Most of them don't have as much admin support as the town council does, with the clerk's department able to facilitate some of that. So we're working through some of those logistics, and as soon as we have a date on when we're going to be coming back in to the chambers, we will let you know. I envision that it will be like council, where we have a hybrid scenario. So it's not only handling the live folks who are in the audience, but also handling the Zoom folks who are joining us that way as well. So we need to work through a few more things on that for the Planning Commission and some of our other bodies.
That sounds good. I think we're all looking forward to return of the in-person meetings. And also missing the stay-at-home meetings a little bit. So we'll looking forward to those changes. All right, and then thank you. Finally, we have subcommittee reports. In addition to service on the Planning Commission, members of the commission serve on several town committees. Are there any reports tonight? I don't see any reports. So thank you all for participating in the meeting, members of the public as well as the commission and staff. We appreciate your help and hard work and look forward to our next meeting. This meeting is adjourned.